everyone, I'm back with another flip through video, and I decided I'm going to do this a little bit differently today because this is from one of my flip books before I properly got into scrapbooking. I just used to stick photos in, so the only bits of embellishments are sort of these stickers. So rather than just talk about what all the photos are, I thought I'd do like a little mini guide to all of the places in this scrapbook. So this is from a walking tour that I took to Greece in 2021. So it was still in the sort of height of COVID, but the trip was really safe and it went ahead. And I'd never done a walking tour or B an island hopping tour either, not one like this. So I went with my mum and we had a really good time. Actually, we had a nice group of people, which was really good, and we flew into Athens and then we visited 4 islands in the Cyclades. There's lots of different ways to say this, and we mainly travelled around via the ferries, which were so easy to use. So yeah, I'll go through each of the places we stopped at and just talk a little bit about the places in general. So yeah, we landed in Athens and we had a complimentary pickup from the company we went with. We went with Explore Travel. I found them quite good. They were reasonably priced and the itinerary was very well thought out, and our guide was absolutely amazing. He's one of the best tour guides I've ever had. His knowledge of this area was excellent, and sort of he kind of just gave us loads of history across all of the islands, and yeah, he was brilliant. So yeah, we landed in Athens and we landed quite late at night. So this was our view from our hotel room. Just to sort of kind of get our bearings, we went onto the rooftop of our hotel with a little drink, and yeah, you could see the Acropolis and the Parthenon from our hotel room, which was really cool. And then the first day we had a little walking tour with the group, which was good because we got to know everyone in the group. And yeah, we just walked around all the ruined buildings, which was really cool. So we got given all the history and sort of lots of information about all these buildings. I'm trying to remember some fun facts, but can't actually remember them, which is again why I've got better at my scrapbooking, because yeah, I now ensure that I write things about the places that I visit in order to remember them. So yeah, these are just some pictures of the ruined buildings. I found Athens really safe to walk around. I've been to Athens before this trip on my own, and yeah, felt really safe walking around. And then as part of our trip, we went to the Acropolis and the Parthenon. So this was the top of the Acropolis where the Parthenon is. Obviously, this is a really famous building in Greece. And we managed to spend a bit of time there. This is actually, I managed to get a good photo with not many people in, but it was pretty busy considering it was the end of October. Sorry, no, the middle of October. It was still quite busy. So yeah, I know sort of in the height of summer this can get packed, so it's a good idea to go early in the morning. This was about midday, and yeah, the sun was so hot even again in October, so I can imagine in the height of summer it's pretty unbearable. And then once we'd done that, we had a bit of free time where we could wander around, so we went to one of the neighbourhoods. I think this is called Plaka. This was sort of near our hotel, and we just had a little wander through all the streets, which was really cool. So yeah, that was Athens. And then we caught a ferry very early in the morning. It was about 6 in the morning. It was a tough wake up call, and we caught the ferry to Syros, which is an island I'd never heard of before, but it was absolutely beautiful. So once we sort of got off the ferry, we checked into our hotel, and then we went for a walk across the island, which was really cool. I made a little thing of this picture here, because my mum claims that she hates walking. Yeah, she was leading the pack. She was setting the pace for us, and that's her just talking to the guide there. And yeah, so we walked from Kinney to Galissus, and sort of it was a coastal road, and it was sort of a mixture of like proper path and then sort of rugged terrain, and the views were absolutely amazing. And then this is just a little taverna where we stopped for lunch on the beachfront, and this was on the tablecloth. They sort of put paper tablecloths down, and this was so I stole a bit of the tablecloth and I stuck it in. So this translates as 2 cicadas on the tamarisk trees. And yeah, there was lots of tamarisk trees sort of shading the taverna, which was really nice. And then this picture here is a picture of sort of, it looks like the Little Mermaid from Copenhagen. So yeah, sort of got a picture of that as well. And then this is Galissus, which is where our hotel actually was. And it was a lovely little town. The only thing was, because we went sort of later in the season, and also because of COVID, a lot of places had shut down for the winter already. So we were quite restricted on where to eat in this place. But it was still absolutely beautiful. I mean, the beach was sandy. You can see it's sort of quite a curving beach. There's plenty of space, and then this was a little church up high on the hill, so we walked sort of up the coast and then up the mountain to there. And then this was just a picture, and we had a little bit of chill time, so we sat by the pool. And then for our last evening in Syros, we only had 2 nights here. We went to the capital, which is Hermopolis. I'm probably butchering that. And this is actually the capital of the Cyclades, the Cyclades. It's sort of like a group of islands that are in a circle. And this is where you find Mykonos and Santorini, which are obviously the more well-known islands, but it's actually this island that's the capital of that whole group of islands. And this was lovely. It was sort of a harbour front, and it's one of the few places in Greece where it's got 2 different religions of churches. There's a Greek Orthodox and a Protestant church. I might have to double check that, but sort of, yeah, you've got 2 separate religions that are both welcome here. And it's quite a steep walk up to the churches, but it's well worth it. Sort of lots of little narrow alleyways. And this is a statue of Hermes, the Greek god. I thought it was meant to be an angel, but I got severely told off by our tour guide. It turns out it's Hermes. So yeah, this was a lovely place. There were lots of places to eat for food, and this is where you catch the ferry to then go on to neighbouring islands. So once we had our meal, we then caught an evening ferry over to our next island, which was Paros. I really liked Paros. I'd love to go back here. This was sort of very typical Greece, with the white buildings and the blue doors, but without, so it looked like Santorini, but it was without the Santorini price tag. So yeah, if you're looking for an alternative, a budget friendlier option, Paros is definitely worth it. So yeah, this was where we stayed. I can't remember the name of the town at the moment. So again, this is why I've got better at scrapbooking, so that I can write lots of information about where we stayed. But yeah, it was just so pretty. And then we did a Byzantine walk, which is sort of the road that the Byzantines would have taken through the island when they were sort of at the height of their power. And again, the buildings were just absolutely beautiful. And then again, we had a bit of a free afternoon. That's what I liked about this tour, is that you sort of did something in the morning and then you could do something of your own accord in the afternoon. So we went to Nausa, again, not entirely sure of the pronunciation. And this was a lovely little village. It was sort of another little harbour. Again, with sort of the white buildings with the blue doors and the blue shutters. Yeah, so really enjoyed this, and it's sort of got like a walkway out to the water, and just all the buildings together look beautiful. And then yeah, just took a little picture of me. And then this is obviously right on the harbour front. You've got restaurants right by the water. These are a bit more expensive, so we sort of went inland a little bit so that you didn't pay the fee of the nice view. So yeah, really liked Naxos and Paros as a whole, so I'd like to go back to there. And then the next day we went to Perikia, which is sort of the main town, and again this is where we caught the ferry from, and sort of I just took a picture here because this looks like, you know, the famous buildings in Santorini. So yeah, this is a definite option if you want to get like the blue domed buildings but don't want to pay the Santorini price tag. So after that, we did actually then go to Santorini, and I've been to loads of different Greek islands, and I'd have to say this is my least favourite but one, which I know is going to be controversial, and my least favourite island, even more controversially, was Mykonos. I do have a scrapbook from Mykonos, which I will get around to doing, and I'll explain a little bit more then why Mykonos was not my vibe. But yeah, went to Santorini, which I was really looking forward to, but I did think it was going to be sort of overrated, and it was. It is beautiful, but it is overrated. So rather than treating it like a normal Greek holiday where you'd go for sort of a week or 2 weeks, I think 3 nights is more than enough to see everything here and be done with it, basically. So this was the view as we came into Santorini on the ferry. It is absolutely beautiful, but just very overrated. So yeah, you can see all the sort of white buildings, the famous white buildings there. So we landed in Fira, which is the main sort of port, and our hotel was about 1.5 miles out of the town, which I would recommend because it is a lot cheaper. But then we walked back into Fira, ready for the sunset, which is obviously what Santorini is famous for. And then we had a little mooch around the streets. We then went to Red Beach, which is famous for the redness, the colour of the rocks. And we were actually told that we shouldn't go any further than this because the danger of the rock collapsing is, you know, it's very temperamental. But you still get people going on the beach, which is obviously quite dangerous. But to look at it from here is amazing. But yeah, just don't go actually onto the beach. We saw a couple of these photo shoots going on, which I thought was quite funny. It was obviously sort of like Instagram photos. We saw like an engagement photo shoot. We saw an graduation photo shoot. So yeah, it was all these people with like really long dresses trying to make it look like it was sort of floating in the wind, yet there was always someone sort of having to throw it up and then run out of the way. So it was amusing to see that. Okay, and then this next page is sort of the main reason why I wanted to go to Santorini. So there is a walk from Fira, the capital, all the way to Ia, which is where the famous blue domes are, and you walk along the cliff edge, and it is absolutely beautiful. It is a hike though, so there is a sign that says Fira 1 kilometre away and Ia 10 kilometres away, but it was more like 15 kilometres. So again, we did this in October, and it was quite cloudy and overcast, which was really good. So I can imagine doing this on a hot day is tough. There is no shade at all, and some of the path is a bit unsteady. Some of it's gravel, so I'll show you on the next page. So it can be a bit unsteady, so you need proper footwear, and lots of water. It is a hike, but again, it is absolutely beautiful. You pass sort of like all the buildings kind of in the cliff edge, and then you get views of the caldera throughout, which is amazing. It took us about 4 or 5 hours, which does seem a lot, but I don't know how to say this without being horrible. The oldest person on our tour was about 80, and I was the youngest. So I was 30 when we went here, and I was the youngest by about 25 years. So it was tailored to older people. So 5 hours was a long time, but also you got to kind of stop and have a look at the views and whatnot. So it was, you know, I didn't mind it taking that long. And then, so yeah, this is kind of what I was talking about, the path. Sort of, it's a bit gravelly and it was a bit slippy at that point. But again, the views were lovely. So you can, this was about 2/3 of the way there, and then you can just see Ia right at the edge of the picture here, sort of all the white buildings. So when that comes into view, and there's a closer view there with all the buildings, it does feel sort of like a sense of achievement, like you're nearly there. And then obviously as it gets closer, you can see the buildings more clearly. So yeah, it's definitely worth doing as a walk, but it is tough. And then we did arrive in Ia, and we had sort of a couple of hours here. Unfortunately, it did start to rain, which was a bit annoying, but you know, that's fine. Of course, we did go and see the famous blue domes, and we did have to queue to get the picture because it was so busy. And again, seeing as this was low season, I dread to think what it's like peak season. Yeah, and then we just sort of wandered around Ia. It was a lovely town to visit, but there's not much there apart from the buildings, so it's kind of like you've seen it once and then there's not much to go back for. And then on our last day in Santorini, we visited Akrotiri, which is the site of, it's like their version of Pompeii. It's where the volcano eruption happened that destroyed, or that created, the caldera. But Akrotiri was the village that got destroyed, and they're trying to preserve, or it's like an archaeological dig going on, trying to sort of uncover all the remains. And it was really interesting watching them do it. So we paid €12 back in 2021. So I'd imagine the price has gone up a little bit, but it was really cool. There's like a pathway that you follow, and you can see all the ruins. And then the exciting thing that happened is that we did actually experience an earthquake while we were there. So yeah, the rest of the group, we were sort of just walking around, and then like people were like, the earth is moving. And I mean, we all thought we like unintentionally got drunk, because yeah, we were sort of staggering a little bit. But yeah, no, there was an earthquake. It was only like 3 on the Richter scale, but you could feel the tremors, which was quite cool actually. And then after Santorini, our last port of call was Naxos. Now this was my favourite island that we visited, and I'd love to go back to Naxos. So as you come in on the ferry, you see the temple of Apollo, obviously one of the Greek gods, and this is quite a popular spot for sunset. And because if you can time it right and get yourself in a good spot among the crowds, the sun, as it goes down, does shine in between the arch. Obviously you get sort of a nice effect. But even if you can't get in that spot, this was a photo that someone else took and I cribbed it off them. Yeah, even if you're not there, the scenery is absolutely beautiful. And then this is the main town of Chora, spelt Chora, which basically means town. Again, it's all built on a hill, so the views are spectacular, and there's lots of little tavernas and restaurants along the waterfront, which was lovely to sit on. And then the next day we went on another walk throughout the countryside, which was amazing. Sort of the scenery was so pretty and it was so quiet. There was no one else there. We stumbled across a little lake thing in the forest, which was beautiful. And yeah, there was some vultures flying around, which was cool. There were terrapins in the water, and then we saw a little crab as well. So saw quite a bit of the nature. This was the beach on Naxos, near where we stayed. It was about a 20-minute walk from our hotel. Yeah, beach was lovely. Had a little swim. Even in the middle of October, it was still quite warm. And then this is one of my favourite pictures that we took. So this was the last morning when we were waiting to get the ferry. So this is the morning after, and then the night before. So this was a group of us that all went out drinking. Some of us went back about midnight because we knew we had to be up at 6 a.m. But these two decided to stay out until 4 a.m. And so they were feeling a little bit ropey the following day. But yeah, I just love that picture. And then finally, this is the last page. So yeah, this was a picture of sort of, even though there was about 16 of us on the trip, there were some couples who kept themselves to themselves, which is fine. So there was a group of sort of 7 of 8 or 8 of us that kind of bonded and became a big group, and our tour guide came out with us for one last drink, which was really nice. And this man here, it turned out he only lived about 10 miles from where me and my mum are from. So that's the second time where I've gone on a group trip where people could come from anywhere, and they've lived within sort of a 10-mile radius of where I'm from. So yeah, met people from all over the world, but also met people who come from the same county as me. And then this is just a picture of us as a whole group, and I have labelled us all here, so to try and remember everyone. Haven't actually really kept in touch with any of them, only the man who lives locally. But that, that's fine. Everyone's got their own lives. There were a couple from America, a couple of people from Scotland, but it was a really nice group for the trip. And then finally, this was a picture that someone took from Ia as the sun was setting. So they actually found a bar and sat there. I think they had one drink because they said like a cocktail was about €30. So they made their drink last for about 3 hours while watching the sunset. And then this was just one of the ferry tickets that I kept and stuck in. So yeah, it was a really, really good trip, and sort of hopefully, I'd not heard of half of these islands. The only one I knew about was Santorini, and that ended up being sort of my least favourite of all the ones we went to. So yeah, I hope this has kind of given a little bit of inspiration for, lesser known Greek islands, but also for me personally, it's nice to see how my scrapbooking has come along, at least in terms of journaling, and now sort of putting extra embellishments on and trying to make it look a bit jazzy. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's quite long, sorry about that, so thank you if you got through to the end, and I will be back with another one. Bye!